Nintendo finally gave us a good look at the upcoming Animal Crossing track coming to Mario Kart 8 in both the direct as well as a brand new trailer. And this course is jam-packed with references to the games. There are recognizable buildings, villagers, various items like street lamps and benches, and hell, there are even 4 different versions of the track, one for each of the seasons. So you know what that means, it's time to bust out the old analysis machine and see what secrets the footage might be hiding. Okay, so the trailer opens up far above the action before zooming in for a closer view, and the Animal Crossing aesthetic is immediately apparent. I mean, check out the starting line that's made of wood, adorned with fruit, and of course features the Animal Crossing logo, including the clock built right into it, which actually changes to reflect the current time in each season. And not surprisingly, the starting line seems to be in a pretty central part of town, because that building to the left there is Town Hall, which we get a better look at in this clip. And we can see it's remarkably faithful to the games, with a similar structure featuring a giant clock flanked by PA speakers, as well as a town flag nearby. Now just across the street are the Able sisters, with the sisters themselves standing right outside, and we can see that Shampoodle is just upstairs, like an Animal Crossing New Leaf. Now just ahead is the town's bulletin board as well as a town tree behind it, and just like the one in the game, it's directly across from Town Hall, has the same distinctive brick planter box, and is built on top of a stone base. Although the tree has grown quite a bit since it was seen in New Leaf. I mean, just look at it! It's huge! Anyways, let's get back to the race. So just off the starting line, you'll cross over a bridge that passes over a river, which you can see the source of thanks to the nearby waterfall. And when you look at that, there's a second bridge in the back, but more on that in a sec. So after crossing the bridge, you'll make a 90-degree turn to the right, which takes us to this next scene in a field full of trees. And we know that's what comes next because of the train right here. Yep, it's the same one seen in the Animal Crossing games. And like in the games, it seems to be traveling in a straight line based on the tunnel in the back here. Which means that the bridge we just talked about should be directly in front of it, which it'll be using to cross over the river itself. Anyways, it's pretty obvious that the trees here are going to be hazards, as the villager so kindly demonstrates in this clip. But there's also a neat touch here in that hitting the tree causes the fruit to drop to the ground, just as if you had shaken the tree in the game itself. But as it turns out, this doesn't only happen if you run into it, but seemingly if anything hits it, at least based on this clip where a green shell causes the same thing to happen. But do the dropped fruit act as hazards too, or are they just for decoration? Well, we'll get back to that in just a little bit. Anyways, after racing past the trees, you'll turn another corner which leads to a stunt ramp, then do a jump and a brief hang gliding section. But why the jump? Because we're now crossing over the same river from before again, which means we're now parallel to the straightaway at the starting line. Look, you can even see the town tree there and Town Hall just behind it. And speaking of water, you'll pass over a fountain here too. And based on its sloped surface, it looks like you might be able to use it as a trick ramp if you drop to the ground early enough. Although, you'll probably want to keep to the air in order to grab one of the floating item boxes suspended by balloons. Which is pretty darn clever given that the balloons in Animal Crossing also carry gift boxes all their own. Now most of the buildings that line the downhill street here are your standard Animal Crossing style homes, but there are a couple points of interest along the way. On the right, we can see the retailer, Retail, with the owners Reese and Cyrus just outside. And in another clip, we can see that Brewster's is just across the street based on the sign here. Now at the base of the hill, you'll find 3 stunt ramps in the street, just before passing underneath an archway made of balloons. You'll then turn left out onto a beach where you'll find a pair of ramps among some seashells. But as with the fruit, we can't help but wonder the seashells might actually be hazards. But this time, we think we have our answer. Because if we freeze this clip right here and play it in slow motion, we can see one appears on screen for just a couple of frames before being knocked away by Peach. And she appears to be completely unaffected by this. So it seems like the seashells are just for decoration, and we're guessing that goes for the fruit too. Now there are a few things about this area that I want to point out. For one, if you turn sharply onto the beach with a speed boosting item, you'll be able to cut behind the trees and across the dark sand here to shave off some time. Next, the water that you pass through here is part of the same river that we talked about a bunch already, which of course leads out into the ocean. But here's something interesting. There's a fence separating the river from the ocean, but not before or after. So is it possible you'll be able to drive into the water before the fence and come out the other side? Well, probably not, based on the final scene from the trailer here, where although it does appear that you might be able to drive into the water, there also seems to be some underwater rocks there that'll block your path. Finally, keep an eye on the waterfall to the right here. Yep, a rainbow appears if you're at just the right angle. That's pretty neat. At any rate, the course then curves left from the beach and up a hill. Oh, and if you freeze it here, we can see the typical Animal Crossing lighthouse on an island in the distance. And just ahead, you'll find Nook's Cranny and Tom Nook himself on the right ridge. Anyways, the curve eventually leads into the third set of item boxes on the bridge that spans the river below, and then is onto a jump, which crosses directly over the downhill section from earlier that led to the beach. After landing, you'll encounter Mr. Resetti dead ahead, and he doesn't look happy as he'll knock you out if you touch him. Now, even though we see him twice in the direct footage, he appears in the exact same spot both times, which might suggest that he doesn't move around. But if we slow down this clip, we can see that the hole he emerges from actually disappears once it goes back underground, which likely means he can appear elsewhere. And in fact, in the full trailer, we can see him pop out of a hole closer to the right side, meaning that it seems he will in fact pop out in different places within a small region. Soon after, the track bends to the right in front of the museum. And look, there's the museum's caretaker, Blathers. But if you have a speed boosting item, you can actually cut across a grassy corner for a shortcut. And check this out. See the rocks here? Isabelle actually runs into one of them, causing a coin to pop out, just like the money rocks from the games. Now, in the games, there was only one money rock in each town, so we think there's a good chance the second rock won't be quite as forgiving. Anyways, once past that corner, you'll find yourself right back at the starting line for your next lap. Alright, so that's the overall layout of the course, which you get a better look at in the trailer's final scene. But in case it's still not clear, one of our fans, @KingSummerod on Twitter, drew this remarkably accurate picture of the map. So here's the starting line, the tree field, the item box balloons, the beach, and then Mr. Rossetti and the museum. Now there's still one big feature of the track that we haven't talked about much yet, and that's the fact that it changes seasons. Now in Animal Crossing, the game used a real-time clock, and the season in the game would actually be whatever it is in the real world at that time. But according to Iwata, it sounds like it'll be randomly selected each time you race on the track, which is kinda nice in the sense that you won't have to wait a full year to see everything this track has to offer. In addition, the seasons all appear to be hard-locked to a specific time of day, which means that the real-time nature of Animal Crossing won't actually be present in this track in any form. At any rate, let's go ahead and break down what exactly changes between seasons. So as you might have noticed, the bulk of the trailer is made up of scenes from summer, that take place in broad daylight with bright green trees, including the town tree, and butterflies that flutter about. Now after summer, we have fall, which takes place during the evening, with the tree's leaves all changing to brown. And look, you can even see leaves dropping from the town tree, which might explain why you can see leaves scattered all over the racetrack, including some giant piles of them among the tree field they can actually drive through, sending them scattering. But those leaf piles aren't just for looks, because check out what happens when someone drives through the one in the back here. Yep, a mushroom just popped out that you can then run into for a speed boost. And speaking of mushrooms, decorative ones can now be found growing near the town tree. And since night is approaching, all the lights in town have been turned on, including the street lamps, lights in the arrow signs, and even inside buildings and on the train. And since it is almost nighttime, KK Sliders finally appear to play some tunes in front of the town tree. And did you see the gorgeous view of the sunset that you have from the beach? Next up is winter, which is set on a snowy night and appears to be just a bit more festive than the other seasons. I mean, there's snow decorating the buildings and landscape, and lights can be found strung up all over the place, including on the starting line and all over the town tree. And speaking of the town tree, it no longer has any leaves, although the rest of the trees seem to be unaffected. You'll also find snowmen among the field of trees now too, which we're guessing will slow you down if you hit them. And check this out, if we freeze this clip right here, we can see that KK Sliders relocated to Brewster's for the winter season to play even more tunes. And finally, if you look off into the distance, you can see the northern lights in the sky. And finally, we have spring, which brings new life to the area with the trees growing a fresh coat of pink leaves. And on top of that, you'll find pink petals all over the ground, as well as ones that float in the air throughout the racetrack. But interestingly, the trees don't appear to have any fruit on them at all. So that pretty much covers it for the seasons, but there are just a couple more changes we haven't mentioned yet. For one, the music actually appears to change to reflect the season, which is a nice touch. Secondly, some of the villagers appear to change between seasons too. Although, this might actually be a random occurrence each time you play as well, regardless of the season. Because if we look back at the initial picture released for this track last year, we can see every villager at the starting line is different from the opening scene of the trailer, despite both scenes taking place in the summer. Curious. And with that, we're done covering everything we could dig up on the Animal Crossing track. But like usual, let us know if we missed anything by posting in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain.com for more on the Mario Kart 8 DLC and other things gaming too.